again, as you can see by the pace that the peloton are moving here. It is indeed a Tratnik on the front there, settled into a nice rhythm. I think after that little bit of positioning play, they're more than happy just to let this rider go. And there we go, it is indeed one of the Colombians in the squad, Alejandro Osorio Caravial.
Osorio then trying to get away, and if you're from this team that's in its first year of development after Gianni Savio's team lost the sponsor, it's a great photograph to have that going up that climb out the front. He might be about to get some company. That looked to me like a rider from Groupama FDJ, Matt, that's just managed to get out the front.
Yep, certainly was. They've got a couple of very good climbers. They've got Lenny Martinez. Watch out for him, as Quentin Pache, yep. Himself a very good climber. Looks like there might be somebody just teeing themselves up for a counter there from the Bingold team.
Time to get out and have a look. They come to what will be the final kilometre when they get there.
Yeah, the hardest part of the climb still to come. The steepest gradients maxing out at 18%. Just go through this little chicane, that little left and right. We're just coming to it now. And this is where it really does start to kick up.
Moving up left and right, and it's now Sidal Quickstep who get their rider to the front. Osorio's now to be joined by Paschal.
Great crowds here, Tifosi loving it.
Osorio struggling though.
Yeah, you can see the way
effort really taking it out of him.
Oh yeah, he was just tacking across the road. He just did basically taking a longer line just to shave a couple of percentage points off the gradient, weaving left and right. And there you go, there's that little chicane that I was talking about. That is the steepest section of this climb. And then it just keeps on going as well. We had that slightly flatter section about 500-600 meters ago, but now it is solid 10%, and it only flattens out a couple of 100 meters to go. And it looks like it's the unmistakable figure of Rafa Majka on the front there. How reliable, how solid is Majka, sat in the center there. Pache looking good.
Sounds like a football chant, doesn't it? But it's Tadej Pogacar's black and white army who are there.
Indeed.
And of course, an Emiliano Romagnolo, one of the most repeated and regarded names in Italian cycling history. Marco Pantani is never forgotten by his faithful fans. Paschal stays out there. Osorio has been caught. The arch is on the left for the first half of the climb. You go under that bridge, as Matt was saying, then it's on the right. And we start to see a true semblance of how sharp the climb is from looking down the hill there. Beautiful view of Bologna in the background. As Paschal briefly turns out of sight. Now then, another rider off the front. Looks like it could be somebody from Jaco Alula.
Yep, big launch off the front. There's still UE Team Emirates leading the peloton, slowly thinning out as the road continues to rise.
Looks like it's Harper again.
Yep, up the road the other day, wasn't he? Clearly a man on form. It's that very narrow pinch point there that you've got to be aware of. But Harper bridging pretty smoothly and efficiently. Rock solid.
Two very strong riders out there, and Chris Harper and Quentin Paschal. That strings out the group a little behind, which is being whittled down pedal stroke by pedal stroke. This the first of 5 ascents up to San Luca, and they're about to get their very first view of the sanctuary itself at the top. Nobody will be finding sanctuary yet because there's 4 full laps still to go.
Yep. Yeah, Harper's had a good end of year, hasn't it? Good move, was up the road the other day, finished inside the top 5. He was in the breakaway, wasn't he, in the Coppa Agostoni the other day. With a good foil as well for Jaco Alula. It means they can just sit back. They've got Zana and Yates as well, who one would imagine would be up there later on today. This is where the road just slightly flattens now, just coming into the last couple of 100 meters. Flattens to the line. But Harper looks to be causing Pache a little bit of hurt here. The strongest of the two, the smoothest of the two, looks to be the man on the front at the moment. But a good little move here.
So Groupama and Jayco Alula, the two teams who've stolen a march. 4 laps to go as we're through the finish line for the first time of 5. Rafał Majka continues to work behind, and UAE have good numbers. Quick sighting of Chavez, the former winner there. Roglic, the former 2-time winner, sits on the wheel of his compatriot Tadej Pogačar, who last year finished second here to Enric Mas. Still a big enough group, this, Matt, and lots of names still in contention.
Yeah, it hasn't thinned out too much at all. Maybe 1 or 2 have been dropped, but the vast majority of the peloton are there. A few riders just starting to struggle at the back as we hit the descent. 18 seconds they've managed to eke out here, Paché and Harper. Very solid, more than capable duo here. This is our first good look at this descent. As you say, not super technical, nice and fast, and as you can see, freshly surfaced, or relatively freshly surfaced here.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? It sort of arises very briefly again before it drops down once more to Bologna.
Yeah.
9.2 kilometres each lap. So before they know it, they're going to be on the climb again. It just hits you, it repeats and repeats, and that's exactly what Roglic was telling our colleague Antoine Plouvin at the start, when, of course, everybody was interested more in the transfer speculation, but with regards to the race, he was saying, no, it just hits you, and it is that kind of circuit. There's no time to breathe, really. It's the second part of the climb that I talked about. There's an initial dip down and then another lip to climb here. You think you're resting, but this hits you first.
Yeah, even that first part of the descent there, that little drop-off, it wasn't super steep. They're pedalling pretty much all the way down, but this is cruel, this little kicker.
We're on our first full lap around one of the most famous circuits in professional cycling. It's the Giro Dell'Emilia in central northern Italy. Just around the town of Bologna, city I should say, Italy's gastronomic capital, one of the big university cities in the world. In fact, home to the oldest university in the world, in Bologna itself. Not too much learning to be done here though. Many know the circuit. We'll be graduating at the top of the podium later on. We will find out in less than an hour now. This is 24 seconds of a gap from Harper alongside Paché to a UAE-led peloton.
Yeah,
and it's growing, Matt Stevens.
Yeah, it is. 26 seconds now, as you can see. Harper definitely looks to be the smoothest here. Just on top of that, go a little bit more. Just look at the way that Paché's got a slightly more of a ragged style anyway. But to me, the strongest of this duo is the man on the front at the moment. Paché struggling to hold the wheel of Harper. But Harper is a man on form. And this drag continues up, doesn't it? Before they then drop back down again. And as you said, it won't be too long before we're back on to the climb for the second time. So not a lot of time for any sort of recuperation at all, as Paché continues to suffer on the wheel of the man from Melbourne.
There's no flat on this circuit at all. You're up, you're down, and quite viciously so many times. Warren Barguil, who was in good form the other day, wants to move up. Last few races for him in the red jersey of Arkea Samsic. Jan Tratnik makes sure he's in the right place as well for Jumbo-Visma. After a little break, he's happy to be back in action. 26 seconds for the two leaders. And you can just tell we're about to dive down again, because you get those riders who are just trying to sneak up and gain a position or two for that descent, Matt.
Yeah, definitely. See, it's relatively narrow, and as soon as you start picking up a pace on this descent, you'll end up a long way back, or you're in danger of ending up a long way back. So riders just moving up around the outside, timing that move, very important as well. And as you say, all of these riders, most of these riders, will know this circuit very well. They know exactly the right point to move up. It's a real tight hairpin, quite an acute bend, that one. A lot of pace being shaved off, almost a step down on the apex of that corner. Rafał Majka still on the front here. I tell you what, looking at the last couple of years and how important Rafał Majka is to UAE Team Emirates, he's just amazing, Rob. The amount, the work rate that he puts in, his consistency is absolutely incredible. And you were commentating, you had a big epic commentary on Montreal, didn't you, in Quebec? And what Micah did to the field on the final couple of laps in Montreal was nothing short of amazing. I think he quite often is unheralded. I think for me, he can really shape a race, and so reliable. Hardly ever has any dips in form. And arguably, at the peak of his powers in the way that he climbs, they can just use him for a couple of laps here. He can go very, very deep into the race and split things up as we look at some of the winners over the last few years.
The last 6 winners briefly flashing up on your screen there. And these are the 2 who are in front. For the first time, they've lost a second or 2. Chris Harper. We were talking about extensively just a couple of days ago when you and I were both on commentary at Coppa Agostoni, just a little further north from here in Lombardy. Had a few wins in his career, but nothing at this level. He has, however, put in an assist or 2, if you like, to use a bit of football parlance. A great race, and alongside George Bennett, didn't he? Back in Barolo a few years ago. He's helped other victories as well since he moved over from Jumbo-Visma to Jayco Alula this year. It's with Pasha there, who has had a solid enough rise so far through different teams. He was with BMB for a while, wasn't he? Groupama rider now, and veteran of a few Tours de France. Talking about Tours de France, Rafael Micah, I mean, it's easy to forget what he did when he was racing for his own opportunities.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, twice.
Rolls Royce of a bike rider.
Yeah. You just know that people will sort of start to wince as soon as he gets on the front on a climb and starts to wind it up, and the shape of the peloton changes, the gaps start to open, but he just keeps leaning on it. He's got that relentless rhythm. He uses a slightly higher, sort of lower cadence as well, quite high torque, Rafa Micah's style, but devastatingly effective, and he really has honed that. A massively important component part of the engine room of UAE Team Emirates, and boy, they've got a strong team, but for me he's one of the standout lieutenants. He really is. But as you say, immensely decorated over the years. Won his home tour in the past as well, way back in 2014. Done a long career now, 34. As you say, it just gets better and better.
30 kilometers to go. 26 seconds is the gap. They've dived down the hill. Problem now is they have to climb it again.
Yeah, they're straight onto the climb. Next time up, across the finish line, 27.6 k's to go, so they pretty much bang on to the climb again. And if you get caught at the back here, you get that horrible concertina effect, and if they decide to gas it this time up, it's very difficult to move up. But the way that UAE Team Emirates are riding here, I have a funny feeling they're going to want to set a good tempo pretty much every single time up the climb. And there we go, through the archway and back up again. So just this tiny little bit of flat before we hit these ferocious slopes.
Look at this, what a natural stadium.
It's beautiful, isn't it? Look, bang, look at that gradient there, boff. It's almost like you have to lift the front wheel up before you actually get onto the climb. It's a proper little wall, isn't it?
Even the camera was scared there, that's why it froze.
Bunny hop onto the climb.
It's going to be UAE Emirates who lead us onto it again. 5 of their riders at the front. The back of the line, the Slovenian champion, Tadej Pogačar. And 2 Slovenians on his wheel, Primož Roglič and Jan Tratnik. Through the arch they go, up the hill to start, and look at how it hits them.
Yep.
Just in case you weren't sure, there are the vital statistics. Salita climb, San Luca, 2.1 kilometers in length, 10% average, 18% maximum, and it's Chris Harper, the Australian, who looks to be putting Quentin Pacher in a little bit of trouble, Matt.
He just looked to be stronger. So the way he got across the gap in the first instance and the way that Pacher was struggling even on the wheel, just his body language, and we saw it there, seems to be losing the wheel. Yeah, and he's lost it. So, but the way Harper's been riding, I think at this point in the race, you can't wait. I mean, you know, that's it. Unless Pacher can actually get himself back into contention, Harper just needs to ride his own rhythm. He has a little look around. He's just got to keep going here.
That's going to change things tactically as far as Groupama FDG are concerned. We don't know as to how Thibaut Pinot is feeling. He's into the final week of his career now. It'll be emotional, as it often is with Pinot. There's legions of fans. And I'm sure will be strapping themselves in for every race they can catch with him in this week. He'll be on the roads of his greatest exploits next Saturday as he says goodbye.
He's doing a good ride here, isn't he, Harper? He's actually opened up the gap again. Okay, Rafa Majka isn't going full gas here, but he's setting a decent tempo.
Half a minute then. Jay Vine on the wheel of Rafał Majka. Further look back to Adam Yates, Diego Ulissi and Tadej Pogačar. And Harper continues to put time into them. 32 seconds now.
Looks good on the bike, doesn't he? He's got quite an old school, classic style, rangy, sits back, very smooth. Almost as he goes past the Pantani graffiti on the road here, he's riding in the style of Pantani. Pantani, of course, famed for climbing on the drops. Most riders don't. They can climb on the hoods, especially on steep climbs like this. So I think that will endear this Australian to the Tifosi even more. This is where it kicks up.
They will love that.
They will, won't they? 18% here. He's doing a cracking job. 34 seconds now.
As we explained before, they know they're cycling in these parts. It's one of the world's great traditional cycling cities, is Bologna. All the way back to its industrial past and the whole region. And they'll also love the fact that the Italian champion's on the attack. Here's Simone Velasco.
Good launch there by Velasco. He's a man who's in good form. It looks like it's Vere who's trying to get across the gap. Vere had a good race the other day, the Italian from Arkea Samsic. Here's the move, just on the inside, just as the road really starts to kick up. Little glance across there from Majka. No response.
Well, almost obliged to put on a show for these supporters, the man in the tricolore. That's exactly what he's trying to do is Simone Velasco. By no means having favourites here at this race, Astana, Kazakhstan. So they're going for it. And it's Velasco again who now takes on Paschal. But behind, they're just not letting them go. It's Jay Vine who's taken over now. Well, that attack has done one thing and just weakened ever so slightly UAE Emirates, hasn't it, Matt?
Just a little bit. See Adam Yates out of the saddle, has a little look round. Fausto Masnada is on the wheel of the British rider for Soudal Quickstep. But Jay Vine just sewed that back together again, didn't he? And as we had that aerial shot, you could just see some of the riders towards the back of the bunch, again, tacking across the road just to try and shave off a little bit of the brutality of this, the steepness of this climb. But Velasco's had a good year so far. Of course, his biggest win brought that jersey, but he hasn't opened up the gap that I think he'd hoped to do. So Vine sits there. I think he'll just move through to the front and pick things up again.
If you're watching on the telly, you just missed an attack from the Italian champion Simone Velasco. Harper, who had dropped Paschal, had managed to get the gap out to 35 seconds. Now, the attack from Velasco's been brought back, but it's done for Rafał Majka for the minute. And Jay Vine is the man, the Australian, who reacted well. It's his compatriot who's up the road, and J-Car Lula having the best tactical card to play at the moment. But there's still a long way to go as Fausto Masnada now puts in his dig. It's an Italian who's on the march, who's on the move, and after a man who suffered through injury and illness in the last 18 months or so. Remember, this was a guy who was fighting it out for a victory at the Giro di Lombardia a couple of years ago. Great to see him back, great to see him active, and Soudal Quickstep now lay one of their cards on the table.
Yeah, good move there by Masnada. Opened up the gap straight away. As Harper rolls through, and rolling that big gear, nice and smooth. Takes a bottle this time through. It's a hot, hot day here. 27 degrees, so it looks like the sun has ever so slightly gone in. No shadows on the road, but 3 laps to go now, Rob.
Thirsty work as he takes the beat on. Masnada, in need of refreshment himself. It's a warm day today. Strange old summer. Hottest on record, they say. It's extending into the beginning of the autumn in Northern Europe and in Southern Europe. Near the centre of all that, just as we start to get down of what is classed as the south. It's in the mid to high 20s today. 19 seconds then. If Masnada can get to Harper, which isn't an easy task in itself, gives them a bit of renewed impetus for this second part of the climb, Matt.
Definitely. This little bit here, and when the road just starts to kick up, that's the bit where I think Masnada will start to take a bit of time out of Harper. If they will just join up in front, we've got that'd be a pretty interesting situation. I don't think UAE team Emirates in particular, they're the team that's taken up the reins, they're the team that were riding earlier on, they're the team that have set the pace up the climb on these first two occasions. I don't think they'll be overly worried just yet, but what you can get in situations like this, Rob, is just once one or two riders start to get across the gap, more and more teams get represented, and that's when you've got to start thinking. But I don't think there'll be anybody panicking at all. But when you look at the lineup of Soudal Quickstep here, we know that Alaphilippe isn't in the form that he would like himself to be in. And they're certainly just a team that's taking their chances here. Masnada's feeling good. His form has been on the ascendancy. Had a solid performance in Luxembourg, top 10 on the opening stage there. He's clearly feeling good. And if you look back over the years, a lot of his best results have been at the back end of the year as well. And he'll be one of many riders in that team who's wondering about what is going to happen next year. But again, they'll try and put that behind them, put that to the back of their mind and focus on the racing at hand, focus on their job. Masnada closing the gap, 2 seconds now. This is the bit you'd imagine here, Rob, where he might actually try and eat into the lead a little bit. And he certainly looks to be moving a little bit more rapidly.
18 seconds still to make up. He has just over 10 on the peloton. It's still a good half a minute for Harper. He's putting in an exceptional performance here.
Yep.
Masnada, by the way, in this Soudal Quickstep team today with Julien Alaphilippe and Ilan Wilder, who you imagine are the leaders, but
yes,
don't forget Mauro Schmid, or we should maybe call him Las Vegas Mauro Schmid now. Not sure if he'll be gambling on anything at the end of the day, but there's Van Sevenant, Knox, as we've seen already. He was doing quite a bit of work, wasn't he, to position Soudal Quickstep into the foot of the climb the first time. Masnada here, and Bajoli, who's one of the riders who's already confirmed to be leaving the team, whatever happens, whether there's a merger or not in the end. He'll be heading to Lidl Trek. A look behind from Masnada, which isn't always a good sign. The gaps at the minute, at least on the top of our screen, are not changing, Matt.
No. That little acceleration that took him away from the bunch and into the void between the leader brought him 5 or 6 seconds, but it's stabilised now.